Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Stacy, I'm a registered nurse. If you're new here, welcome in. If you're coming back, I'm so glad to have you. Let's talk about respect and professionalism today. It's really been on my mind a lot lately. Just thinking about the years, how I've seen things change in healthcare and working with other healthcare workers. I ask if you like what you see here, that you like, subscribe, and follow for more. And if there's anything that you want to know about or any questions you have that you feel I might be able to answer, please let me know in the comments. I do read your comments and I do try to answer each one. Sometimes it takes me a little time to get to them, but I promise you I do read them. So let's talk about respect. But before I do that, let's just say anything that I say here is strictly my opinion, is not based solely in, what do you want to say, concrete evidence. Just my experience over the years as a nurse, and anything that I say here doesn't replace the word of an MD. Also, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, as the psychics say. Let's get into it. I started in healthcare in 1997. I guess I was about 19. And I started as a CNA, and I will say that I have seen the way that we communicate change over the years. I remember when I was a CNA, I had such high respect for nurses, for the people that were above me, so to speak. And to be honest, I worked with some really amazing nurses. I worked with a lot of really amazing nurses, and they were really, really good at working with me. They never treated me like they were above me, but I had this idea in my brain that their rank outranked mine. They had a different level of responsibilities than me. And I think because I was raised in a different time and a different generation, the idea of respecting your elders was just, I guess, really, really pounded into my brain as a child about, because I came from a time whenever we didn't even sit at the same table with the adults. We didn't sit in the room with the adults when they were having conversations. There was a clear delineation of authority and who was not in authority when I was growing up. From teachers to parents to everything, we understood who was in charge and who was not in charge. And I feel like that carried over into my duties as a CNA. And I was still a teenager when I became a CNA. I was 19, was my first experience working in healthcare. And so when my nurse told me to do something, I didn't question it, I just did it. Now, that's not to say that I would ever do anything out of my scope of practice. I understood very clearly what my duties were as a CNA, and my duties did not include medication administration or giving injections or any of those things. What I was responsible to do was turn and reposition the residents, because I worked in long-term care. I was responsible to turn and reposition them every 2 hours at least. I was responsible to check vital signs and give them to the nurse. I was responsible to know what is a vital sign that is within range for a patient and when to report it to a nurse. Now, as I have gone on in my career from 1997 to now, I don't think there is such a push for CNAs to be obtaining vital signs and reporting those things. I think the focus has turned more toward a nurse understanding if a vital sign is out of range and assessing that. And a lot of times in a facility setting, a nurse is checking their own vital signs, which I heavily agree with. Although I was trained how to take a blood pressure manually when I was 19 years old and had to do that to pass my CNA certification, I do understand that that is not necessarily being taught or delegated to CNAs anymore. That's not to say that CNAs are incapable of that by any stretch of the imagination. Simply, I want to say that the duties that we were allowed to do when I was first coming up in healthcare to now have changed drastically. There has been a very big delineation of responsibility in healthcare. So one of the things that I really understood as a CNA was that my nurse was in charge of me. And she was over the residents. She was overseeing the residents. She was responsible for them. And so when I became a nurse, I understood that I was in charge of what was happening on my unit. I was accepting responsibility for supervision of my CNAs and ensuring that my residents were safe and that their care was was under control. But let's be real. Let's be real. When I think back to the things that I did as an LPN, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that I was able to do those things. I was in my 20s and a little bit more energetic than I am now. I digress. I just want to say that when I was young, I feel like there was just a stronger push toward respect, and it doesn't seem like respect is as important to people. I know people have a tendency to match energies. I don't think that's professional. I don't think that's professional. When you are being professional, your personal feelings do not have a place in the workplace. I will say this and I will say it again. Just because you work with somebody doesn't mean you're going to invite them home to your house to have dinner. It doesn't mean that you're going to go out for coffee or drinks after work. It doesn't mean that you're going to align with each other personally or agree on a personal level outside of work. What you do have to do is learn to work together among many different personalities. No two people are going to do the same thing the same way. And the fact of the matter is, I love that as I have worked in the last probably 7 or 8 years, I've noticed a big push for, maybe even in the last 10 years, a big push for like the personality tests to see where you're at, how you approach leadership, how you approach your work, how you see yourself, how you think others see you, what you think is expected of you, all these sorts of things. I think that's fascinating. And I love being able to see the personality reports of the people that you work with, because then you begin to understand that the way my brain is piecing together things is not the way that your brain is piecing things together. And ultimately, we're going to come to the same conclusion. And perhaps we aren't going to do it the same way, but as long as it's within guidelines, what difference does it make if your way or my way is getting it done? I think that there is such a strong push for people to say, well, she doesn't do it this way. He doesn't do it this way. I don't like that. You don't have to. You don't have to like what other people do. What you do need to see, how is the patient feeling? Is the patient happy? Is the patient well taken care of? Is the patient safe? These are the things that matter in healthcare. These are the things that matter when we're working together. And what I see too many times is people that think like-minded get together and they think of this person who isn't thinking like them, or this couple of people that don't think like them, and they will bully them and push them and be really, really unprofessional towards them. I see a lot of disrespect in healthcare, and I dislike it immensely. I dislike it immensely. I don't think there's a place for disrespect when we're trying to give care to patients. Our jobs are hard enough, right? We get disrespected from our patients. We do. We deal with a lot of disrespect, with a lot of unrealistic expectations. We have a lot of things that we're carrying on our shoulders as healthcare workers, and it's important that we learn to do it as a team. Because I'm going to tell you what, every chain in the link, every chain link is important. Every piece is important. And there's an analogy that I will use until the day I die. When you have a toolbox, you have many different tools in your toolbox. And ultimately, one tool is not going to do every job, right? You can't use a Phillips screwdriver for a flat screw. You can't do it. You can't use certain tools for certain jobs. And ultimately, it's the same way with people. We each have our functions, we each have our responsibilities, and we each have our role. And having a full kit of tools in your toolbox is essential to getting a job done sometimes, right? So every tool in your toolbox is important. Every part of your healthcare team has a job, a function, a responsibility, and a value to your team. Even if you don't like them personally, they add value. And if you don't have that tool, you will miss it. And maybe you've never experienced a great loss, but ultimately, when we're looking at people that we work with, we have to understand that not every person is the same. And that is the same in life. But in a professional setting where we're doing patient care, we don't have to be friends. We just have to be respectful to each other and work together to get our patients cared for. That's the ultimate end goal. And that is the soapbox I will die on, because I see so much disrespect and gossip and toxicity in workplaces. And that is what will make a good thing fall apart. You can have a really good group of people. You can have a really good group of people. And if 2 or 3 people get together and decide that 2 or 3 people over here don't fit, suddenly you don't have a good group anymore. Suddenly you don't have a full toolkit anymore. And I think it's really important to respect our weaknesses, our strengths, and our differences. Again, don't take them out for coffee. Don't invite them to your house for dinner. Don't go to dinner with them after work. Don't go for drinks. But be respectful when you're at work. That's just how I feel about it. I think this idea that we should match energies doesn't change anything, because if we all remain ugly to each other, I have seen things that say kindness is free, and I have seen people say that so is being mean. It is. It's free to be mean and it's free to be kind. But I know personally, if I did something that was not nice and it gave mean girl energy, and I have said and done things that I went home and felt icky about later. And I've thought to myself, I really don't want to be that kind of person. I really don't want to present that image of myself. Because don't you feel like it would cause a question if your team is effective, if they can see your weaknesses? We should be building each other up. We should be speaking positively about each other. Obviously, if there's something dangerous going on, we want to report that to our supervisors, right? We don't want to just sit by and watch something dangerous happening or something that could be harmful to our patients. Absolutely, we want to make sure that our patients are being cared for safely. So I'm not suggesting that we should tolerate unsafe behaviors, but I am suggesting that we should take it up the chain of command and not be rude to people, not disrespect others. We need to be respectful to our coworkers, our colleagues, to the doctors that we work with, to the people that are not at the same level as us, to people that are not nurses. We need to be respectful to people that are not clinical. We need to give respect to family members. We are in a business of providing care. We are in a business of providing help to people as nurses. I'm sorry, but we are in a position of serving our community. I don't know if people realize that, but nursing, we are in a position to be serving our community and providing a service for them. And it's really important that we do it with professionalism, because we want people to have confidence in our abilities, not only as individuals, but as a team. Maybe I don't agree with the way somebody does something, but I can see the value in that person. I think it's really important as healthcare workers that when we're looking at our team, that we look at the strengths that a person possesses and help each other build up our weaknesses, that we learn how to do things cohesively together as a team. I feel like the world would be so boring if we were all exactly alike and we all exactly had the same solution to give and we all wanted to do things exactly the same. How boring would the world be if we were all walking around looking the same, thinking the same, never finding a creative solution? The key to innovation is being different, right? So I think you should think of that when you're thinking about that coworker that you're not too fond of, that isn't doing things the way that your brain sees that they should do it. 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 0 is 2. 2 × 2 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4. There's multiple ways to get to the answer. And I think that we should remember that there is value in thinking outside of the box and thinking of ways to do things that are different. My gosh, I've heard some really amazing ideas come out of healthcare. And wow, I didn't think of that. So think of that. That person that you may not like may have a way of doing things that can get it done for a patient that you're really struggling with. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. I'm just saying, learn to be respectful of each other, learn to respect your differences, and learn to be professional with one another. It's so important. Have you ever had a time when you felt bullied or you realized you were being the mean person in the group? Have you ever had a time whenever someone wasn't so professional with you and it made you think about whether you wanted to continue on with that team that you were with? Have you ever been unprofessional towards another person? Have you evaluated how you talk to people? Sometimes I do. I do it a lot because I don't want to hurt anybody and I don't want to be the cause of anybody feeling like they're not respected or that they're not valued in their role. And I think that's worth thinking about. And if you like what you see here and you want to talk about it more, then I ask that you like, subscribe, and follow for more. I thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way through, I thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.